What's up, everybody? This is Ricardo Rodriguez.
And Matthew Messick.
And this is
the Profits Over Wages podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Profits Over Wages podcast, where we do weekly interviews with highly successful business owners and entrepreneurs. We discuss life, business, and entrepreneurship to bring forward the lessons learned from success and failure, and most importantly, have fun while doing it. On episode 35 of the podcast, we interview Stefan Aarnio. Stefan is an award-winning real estate entrepreneur, podcast host, blogger, coach, public speaker, and author of a number of books, including Self-Made, Confessions of a 20-Something Self Made Millionaire. Starting with only $1,200, Stefan has built a multi-million-dollar real estate business and multiple streams of income. Stefan has accumulated properties at an alarming pace, controlling up to 25% of his local niche through his understanding of real estate joint ventures. He was the 2012 winner of the Canadian Real Estate Worth Magazine's Joint Venture Partner of the Year, winner of the Rich Dad International Hall of Fame Award in 2014, and Entrepreneur Magazine named him one of the top 10 real estate influencers to follow in 2017, along with Ryan Serhant, Cardone, and Barbara Corcoran. Stefan's philosophy is simple: find great deals, build a fantastic team, pay everybody, and create partnerships for life. On this episode, we talk about how to get started in real estate investing, doing joint venture partnerships the right way, and why hard times create strong men. We also talk about how to create a winning and no excuse type culture within your team, and why you shouldn't avoid hiring a coach and how it can take your business and personal life to the next level. Enjoy the show. Actually, before you jumped on, I was actually talking to Matt, and then I think when I first met you was when you came out to Chicago, and you had just released the Money People Deal book, which we've actually both read, and we do a variation of it to fund our deals. And I think we were just going through our first deal at the time. We had just bought it. So it's kind of like an interest. It's been like really interesting because now we have like 6 or 7 going on right now. So it's been an interesting journey, since we met you that one time. But for those people who are not familiar with who you are, if you can kind of just tell us, like who you are and what you do.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having the show, Ricardo. So my name's Stefan Aarnio. I'm a Rich Dad International Hall of Fame award-winning real estate investor. I started out when I was 16. I wanted to be a rock star. And, of course, my parents said, that's a stupid idea. My mom said, you better go to school. You better get a good degree, get a good job. And I went to music school here in Manitoba. I'm up in Canada, in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I went to music school and I became a professional musician, and I had a rock band, and that was my business. And I realized that lifestyle really sucked. You made almost no money. You're out till 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. doing gigs. And I had a guitar teaching business. And I decided that I didn't want that life anymore, and I wanted to be rich. I read a little book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it said, anybody could be rich. Anybody can do this if you start a business. Anybody can do this if you start investing in real estate. And I wanted to get passive income. So I started to, take seminars. I started to read books. And, I was about 22 when I started. By about 28 and a half, I became a self-made millionaire through real estate. And now I'm 31. I've got a training company, also have a real estate company. And I'm opening up 2 more major businesses to go with my other 2. So I'm a serial entrepreneur now. And, life is totally different today. In fact, I'm living in one of the nicest addresses in Winnipeg in a building with billionaires and doormen. I haven't been home in so long, my doormen thought I was dead. So, life today is totally different than living at my mom's house and teaching guitar. And I could never imagine that life would be like this today.
Did you ever think that at all? Like, did you have any idea that you'd be, you're investing in real estate, you're an author, you have your own podcast, you're a speaker, you're a coach. Did it ever cross your mind that this is what you would end up doing at some point?
Well, it's funny because my mom said to me after I finished my English and music degree, she says to me, oh, well, why don't you go be a teacher just like me? Well, my mom has an English degree and an education degree. Now they sell you 2 degrees to be a teacher. So I said, no, I don't want to be a teacher, Mom. I'm never going to be a teacher, never going to do it. And sure enough, now I'm doing seminars and I'm training people. My mom comes to my seminar and says, see, Steffi, you are a teacher just like me. So I never planned on this. And I never wanted to train. I never wanted to coach people. But what happened was, winning awards, being in magazines, writing books, being on interviews like this, people call me every day. Literally every day I have a handful of people coming in every day inquiring about mentorship and coaching and stuff. And it's something that the market chose me. I didn't choose this. And I'm sure there's lots of better ways to make money than training. But the market's chosen me. I have a talent for it. And I do it because people are in desperate need to change their financial situation. It's so hard to win the game nowadays if you're just going to your job.
Do you still tour, from city to city doing seminars, or you kind of just stay up in Canada?
Yeah, I don't do much travel anymore. I'm kind of a hypocrite though, because I haven't been home in like a month. I'm not traveling. I was going to do a big tour this year, and I canceled it because I'm doing YouTube every day. I'm doing podcasts every day. I do 4 seminars a year in Winnipeg. Everyone has to fly to me. I just realized we're in the information age now, and speaking to 40 people in a city somewhere just isn't worth it. Whereas today you can do a podcast, you can do a YouTube, you can do a live cast on Facebook, and more people watch that than coming out to a hotel. We live in an interesting time where it's like, I call it the Netflix syndrome, where people want to lie in bed, be naked, cover themselves in pizza, be with their naked girlfriend, and they just want to watch stuff in bed. They'll be on their phone, they'll be on their computer. So people want to learn that way nowadays. They don't want to get dressed and drive down to the Marriott to hear a real estate speaker. They want to be naked, covered in pizza. That's how people are nowadays.
But let's take it back a little bit and kind of talk about like your first deals, right? Because that's always what people are most interested in. Is like, how do I get started? How did you get started in real estate? So
I went and took. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it said you got to start saving money. So I was a guitar teacher, and I'm making about $1,000 a month living at my mom's house. So $1,000, that doesn't sound like much money, but when you keep that whole $1,000, that's like making 50 grand or 40 grand. Because after the taxes and your car and your food and everything, most people don't have much cash flow. So I'm taking my $1,000 every month and I'm saving 70% of it. So I got $700 a month I'm saving. And lo and behold, in 2007, 2008, the Donald Trump Real Estate University comes up to Canada. And I go and I take the $1,500 weekend. I take out my credit card. I swipe it. I go to the real estate weekend, and at the real estate weekend, they're selling you more training. So the guy goes up on stage and says, if you actually want to do this, it's 30 grand for mentorship. And I went out to the parking lot and I cried like a little girl because I was so frustrated. I want to do this so bad. And of course I couldn't finance 30 grand. Like, I was self-employed. I was making a little bit of money. I was responsible with it, but couldn't finance that. So what ended up happening was I went to a whole bunch of free seminars because I was out of money, man. I didn't have much money. I went to the free seminar. And I went to this one free seminar and I met 5 other guys. And meeting these 5 other guys, we were playing the cash flow game, the Robert Kiyosaki cash flow game at one guy's house. Phone rings and the realtor goes, hey, we got a distressed seller. So the 6 of us decide that we're going to go in 6 ways on this house. And I use my first time home buyer, credit to, I say, I'll hold the mortgage. We each put $1,200 down, and that's our first rental property. So I'm in this rental property with 5 other guys. We're splitting it. It makes like $400 or $500 cash flow a month. And we're geniuses for the first couple months. And then of course the tenants smash it up. It's got needles and syringes and, people punching in the walls and kicking in the doors and smashing the windows. Tenants skip town. I'm stuck with the mortgage, and I call my buddies. I say, guys, can you guys come fix this up? Can we put more money in? Nobody wants to put more time or money in. So I ended up getting some money from another investor, buying everybody out. I owned that property for 5 years and sold it at a profit. But that was the first deal. It was really poorly put together. It was poorly done. The tenants smashed it up. I made money on it, but it was an ugly and dirty way to get into real estate. I don't recommend doing it that way.
When was this?
That was in 2000. I think 2009 was my first property, and now it's 2018, and bought a lot of properties since. But so that was the very first one.
How did you go from that one, to doing 2, 3, 10? Because I know at some point, I think last time I don't know if I was talking to you or read one of your books, but you were doing like 40 a year or something like that.
Yeah, my team does about a deal a week. So every week, we got a contract tied up. We'll either sell the contract, we'll wholesale it. When we're flipping, my company was flipping like 30 houses a year. That's a lot of construction and a lot of debt and risk and stuff like that. So we're a lot lighter nowadays. I'm keeping some choice assets. Actually, that's buy and hold is something I'm doing a lot. Buy, fix, refinance, hold. Doing a lot of wholesaling right now. Getting into some commercial right now. And then, of course, we have the training company and the other stuff going on. So busy guy over here, moving lots of product, and we're just always flowing deals through the pipe.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to touch on was like the whole JV situation, right? Because I think Matt was saying that you were a JV partner of the year in 2012 or something.
Yeah, 2012. Like that. That's right. Joint venture partner of the year. So I did a deal. Was it 2011? I think 2011. Did a deal. We bought a property, $225,000, no money down. So the vendor gave us vendor financing. So just here's a beautiful, messed up 1970s purpose-built side-by-side 2-unit duplex. So I got that no money down. Now looking back, I should have kept this thing because that property is like a choice property. But I was broke. I had lots of credit card debt at the time. I was getting into the business. So I joint ventured with a friend of mine, and he brought about 120 grand to the table. We fixed it and we sold it. I think we sold it for 408 or 410 or something. And we netted a really nice number. It was like 60-something thousand net profit. And that was the joint venture of the year. Canadian Real Estate Wealth Magazine, picked up on that story. And, to do a no money down purchase, fix and sell, and have a nice net profit like that in a 6-month time frame, I guess the magazine thought that was awesome. And, here I was winning a trophy and getting all sorts of stuff. That was a time when I was doing like a deal every month, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, so for people who aren't like super familiar with like, JV deals, can you kind of dive more into that? Because, I read your book, Money People Deal. And you kind of had like a strategy of a lot of people, they'll buy a house or two, with their own money or some of their money, but they don't really get like that you could partner with people and have other people put down their money and split profits. And you had a pretty good strategy for being able to do that and scale that. And then when you have like, one JV partner that has a certain amount of money, they usually know people with more money, and then you kind of, scale up.
Yeah, so there's two different strategies you're talking about there. One is the money people deal strategy. And if you're somebody with no money and you want to be doing real estate, you got to get there's 3 parts: the money, the people, and the deal. And so this is all in my book, Money People Deal. We're in 3rd edition now. I just ordered 10,000 units of that book, which is crazy. So we almost broke the floor at the warehouse. The warehouse was like shaking when we brought these. We broke a pallet jack too with the 10,000 books. Yeah. So Money People Deal, there's 3 parts to it. So one part is you got to have the deal. And I always like to buy it 40 to 60 cents on the dollar. So something messed up. Then you got the people, which is the team. And then you got the money, which is the investor. And what I figured out when I was young, I was working for a private equity company, is if you had the deal tied up and if you had the team, the money would come to you. Because the person with the money would go, well, he's already done the work. He's tied it up. He's got the team. Okay, let's do it. Right? You bring it to somebody in a presentation. It's done. It's got a bow on it. It's ready to go. Like here's an example. I'm working on a deal right now. $1 million purchase, no money down. I need about $500,000 to put some storage lockers inside of a warehouse, 50,000 square foot warehouse. And then once it's 85% full, I'll refi it at $3.4 million. So I'll be able to pull out, $600,000-700,000 of equity tax free, and then have $12,000 a month cash flow. Well, I'm making a partnership with the vendor because they have no income on this warehouse right now. So I'll lease it from them with an option to buy. And then I'm also going to have a JV or maybe just a straight up loan with some money, $500,000. But I only need to bring $500,000 to the table because I'm making a deal with the vendor and I'm making a deal with the money. And I'm only going to go get the money. It's interesting because the vendor says to me, well, where are you going to get the $500,000? I said, well, I need paper with you first. Once I have paper with you, I'll go get the money. Because I'm not just going to go to the money and say, hey, can you like put $500,000 together for a deal that's not even tied up? You have to have the deal tied up. So You tie up the deal, you tie up the team, you package it. That's an investment thing. You package it, and then you sell the package. And that's where Money People deal comes in. Now, the other thing you were talking about was a Seth model, where you get an investor to bring another investor, and then you get that investor to bring another investor. And what that is that's partnering. So, you might partner 50-50 with a guy, and then once he's tapped out, you say, hey, you know what? Why don't we start a second partnership? I'll take 50, you take 10, and the new guy gets 40 because we're a proven partnership. So you open a second partnership with a bigger guy. Then you go to the bigger guy and you say, hey, bigger guy, we're tapped out. Go get me a third bigger guy. And you keep doing these partnerships where the biggest guy brings the next biggest guy. And that's a way, that's how I got into the multi-million-dollar partners. I started out with teachers and nurses and mailmen as partners, middle-class people. And pretty quick, with the Seth model, ended up with multi-millionaires. And now I have a guy who funds my stuff. He has $140 million. So, that's that kind of guy can fund just about anything. If his capital's home, that's a guy that can do a lot of funding. My partners before that, I think they had about 10 or 20 million that they could deploy. So you need to use your network and use the people to get into the next circle of money, because maybe you're broke and broke people, but the broke people know someone with money, and the person with money knows more people with money because people with money hang out together.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we just wanted to talk a little bit about this because, you could do 1 or 2 or 3 deals a year, just yourself with hard money, maybe some of your own capital. But when it comes time to go into, from 3 to 5 to 10 to 20 a year, then you kind of have to move into the Seth model or the JV model to where you could actually do multiple deals a year.
Well, it depends. I mean, you can do it with lenders. You can do it with debt, or you could do it with equity. Right. I've done it with both. I actually like debt more because you keep the upside. On a flip, with 10% interest a year, I'll net 8 to 15% of ARV, which is a great net. If you're netting 15% with none of your own money of the ARV, let's say it's a $300,000 sale. 15% on that's a pretty good number. That's $45,000.
Right.
But if you're splitting it, let's say you make 20 points and you're splitting it 10 and 10, well, you're only making 30 grand. So you make more money if you can get a debt partner at a good price. The splitting is always very expensive, but splitting is a great way to start because everybody gets excited about splits.
Definitely. So let's talk about some of your books, because I know what are you up to now? 8?
I've written 5. I've written 5 books, and then I got some journals coming out. So by the end of this year, I'll have written 6 books and have 2 journals. So it will be 8 publications by the end of this year.
And how does that process work for you? Like, do you just sit down and think about like the books that you want to write, or how did you start writing books? I guess is the question. Like, why?
Well, I started writing books because I went to a seminar. And I was a guy that needed to raise millions of dollars. Like I was a real estate investor. I was committed. And I wrote my first book, Money People Deal, to raise capital. And that book raised $5 million of capital in the year for me because I was handing it out, passing it out. I was speaking. It also launched my training company by accident. I never planned on it, but people come to me and say, hey, I want to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that book not only raised $5 million in capital, it also created this training company. And then after that, I released Self Made, which is my story, a little bit about starting out with nothing, the $1,200. Then I released 10 Commandments in Negotiation. This year, The Close, which is all about closing the deal and selling, came out. And then later this year, Hard Times Create Strong Men is going to come on. That's about, how to be a man, because I got all these millennials working for me, and they're like women. They're like badly behaved girls, and they're bitches, and they cry and they make excuses. And I said, no, I'm writing Hard Times Create Strong Men to tune up all these millennials.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, dude, seriously, like, I'm an employer. I'm trying to hire people, and the bullshit I hear these young boys saying, it's just, I can't even listen to it anymore. I'm done.
What are some of the examples? Like, what made you write that book? Like, what is it like? What pissed you off enough about it that you had to write a book?
Oh, dude, let me see. Let me see if I'm going to pull open the manuscript here. I'm going to get the list. I'm going to get the list of some of these things, because the millennial generation is a whole nother. I'm a millennial myself, but I'm very ambitious. I'm the top 1%. I just went out and started doing it. And when I'm hiring guys now, like I hire these like 20-year-olds or 22-year-olds. I've got between 8 and 10 employees in my office at any given time. And these young boys come in, these 22-year-olds and 21-year-olds and 24-year-olds, and they're sharp and they're young and they're good looking and they're well dressed. They look like they would be good and they seem good on paper. And then when you put them in the trenches and they got to fight and they got to win and they got to go out there and do it, do the manly work of whatever's required, they fall down. So I went on a fast in January. I went out to the jungle in Costa Rica and I just lived on water for 18 days in the jungle. And I came home and my employees, my little boys, I'm going to open this up for you guys. I'm going to read you the list of bullshit that these guys said to me. These boys said to me, I come home and it's almost like the inmates have taken over the asylum, because these kids, they had an attitude problem. So let me get you this list. All right. So some of the things they'd say is like, I don't love it here. This isn't my dream. I don't love selling this. I don't believe in this. I want to go traveling. I want to be a business owner of my own one day. This isn't my dream. This doesn't make me happy. You make me feel like shit. I don't like you. You're mean to me. I don't want to do my job. I'd rather join another company I find to be more interesting. The work you want me to do isn't what I want to do. So it's just caca, just garbage. And to be a successful real estate investor or successful businessman or whatever, you often have to do stuff you don't want to do. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just part of being a man. Like, when in history has men been able to do what they want to do? I mean, throughout history, men have been digging in the mud and farming for most of the time. That's not that fun, but we think all of a sudden, oh, I'm going to get rich tomorrow and be a rock star. Sorry, bro. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. So you gotta get in there and do some of the hard work, and, you got to flip and you run out of money. Then you got to do some of the work yourself and tell your friends to come over, and, you got to.
Bro, I mean, it's, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll get up on the ladder. I'll paint. I mean, I used to do that a lot. If you got to GC it, you got to paint, you got to get your credit cards, you got to do whatever it takes to make this thing work. And unfortunately, there's a mentality nowadays where people think, oh man, it's going to be easy. I'm just going to do it. It's Instagram. It's Insta life. It's instant rice, instant meals, microwave dinners. I don't have to watch commercials on TV anymore. It's this bullshit, this iPod generation. If you don't like the song, you just change the song. In the old days with records, you put that record on, you had to listen to the whole damn record. You had to listen to every single song. You could try to drop the needle, but man, most people, the etiquette was you put that record on, you listen to the whole album. Yeah.
That's funny. That was, whatever it takes was our motto, like our company motto for like the first 2 or 3 years. Like that was like whatever we had to do. It was like just whatever it takes to get, whatever we wanted to do done. So it's funny. But let's talk about like, when's that book coming out? Is that coming out at the end of the year? This year?
Hard Times. Yeah. So Hard Times. I'm just finishing up the edits right now. It's 700 pages. It's a big like Bible. I call it the man Bible to fix up some of these men. So that's coming out probably second half this year. It's like May, or it's June now. It's June. So it should probably come out, maybe in September or so. If you want to get a copy, go to hardtimestrongmen.com and you can pre-order it.
And you mentioned the water fast that you did out in Costa Rica. Like, how did you end up doing that?
So I have a health coach, and one of the things with being a high performer in business is you got to have your body together, because otherwise, dude, I mean, being a businessman, you're eating too many lunches out, too many steak dinners, I don't drink, but some guys drink. Traveling is super hard on the body. And so I had a health coach, and he said to me, we started doing intermittent fasting. And he said to me, hey, man, go do a long fast. So 2016, I went and did a 30-day water fast in the jungle. 2017, I did an 18-day only. And I'm probably going to go do a 40-day water fast this summer. So what you do is you go away from everybody. You go to like a cabin, or I go to the jungle in Costa Rica into like a little cabin, and you pretty much don't eat. You just have water for an extended amount of time. And what the body does is it resets itself. It eats all its garbage. It cleans itself out. It trims up your fat. It renders down all the garbage and resets itself. And it actually, it makes you younger. It actually cleans you up, makes you younger. When you come home, you're in great shape. And then you go out and you eat your pizza and cheeseburgers, and now you're messed up again.
So, you got to do another 40-day.
Yeah, dude, I know. I like to eat. That's my problem.
So is it nothing except for water for that whole time?
Yeah, dude, just water.
Like, and then how often do you drink it?
You do about 4 liters a day. So 4 or 5 liters. So in American, that's like 1.25 gallons.
Okay.
And then because that's some of the physical things. What about like mentally? Because that's probably, I think, the toughest part. Like,
dude,
what do you do to like distract yourself from wanting to eat something or
well that's the game, man. I mean, some people lose their minds. Like, I go to a facility where people are like, there's a whole bunch of people doing it, and there's no food. Like, you can't just go and like eat something out of the fridge. There's no fridge. Right. So you're in this place and everybody's like a food addict. And the people at this place, some of them are like watching cooking shows on the computer. Some of them are like, just vomiting addicts every day. Yeah. Dude, some people are like withdrawal, like vomiting every day. Some people are having like massive diarrhea. Some people are just fantasizing and talking to other people about food. Some people just like lie down and sleep. Some people read books. I wrote 2 books in January. One on my fast and one right after the fast, because I was so clear. Your mind gets clear, your spirit, your emotions. So I got really clear, and I use it as a performance thing. But a lot of people, they go and it drives them nuts, because mentally they eat when they're bored. They eat for stimulation. They eat because it's exciting, and that's their addiction.
And then you also do you also not have access to the internet either?
Yeah, well, there's a little like internet place you can go, but it's like, dude, they put you in like a little phone booth.
It's not 5G. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah, well, you got to limit that. I mean, I don't think you're getting the benefit if you're on your phone and the internet the whole time. You really got to go and like sort yourself out. If you look at really brilliant men in history, like Robert Kiyosaki, for example, who wrote Rich Dad, he went out to the cabin in the wilderness with nothing and wrote that book in the wilderness. Yeah. So, anybody who comes up with a great invention usually unplugs. So it's a good way to unplug, sort everything out, come back to civilization, and, you can come back and hit it harder.
For those who might be interested in doing that, how did you go to that?
So I go to a place called Tanglewood down in Costa Rica. You could Google it, Tanglewood. The guy there, he's fasted thousands of people. And it's something I do. Like, I don't really go on vacations. I go on fasts instead, because, I used to go on Mexican vacations or Cuban vacations, and you go and you eat all the tacos and the pizza. You come back, you're fatter, you're dumber, you're slower, and I thought, man, I better do vacations differently. So I come back smarter and faster instead of, fatter and dumber. So I stopped the eating vacations and went to the non-eating ones.
That's funny.
Speaking about Rich Dad, you won the was it International Hall of Fame Award for Rich Dad in 2014.
That's right.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that, or how'd that come about?
Sure. So I took Rich Dad Education, which is the real estate investing education, in 2012. Now, it's funny because I signed up in 2008 with my mom, but my mom freaked out. She was like, I don't want to do this. And she went home and she's like, it's a scam. Seminars are a scam. So we refunded, which is shitty because houses in Winnipeg where I live were $50,000 at the time. By 2012, they were like 200. So we would have been multimillionaires if we just stuck with it. But I took the training in 2012 and went out there and just became a beast. I did 12 deals that year. The next year I did 24 deals. And then I went up to like 30. So I partnered with some rich guys, and we just started doing flip after flip after flip. And I was putting all my deals on YouTube. I have like 750 videos on YouTube. And I guess the company reached out and said, hey, you're going to be our Canadian Hall of Famer this year because you're a beast and you're crushing it. So that was super cool, because that branding piece, or that trophy, they only give out 1 a year in Canada. I think they give 5 a year out in the United States. So there's like 6 people every year who have that. And Rich Dad's the biggest personal finance brand in the world. So real recognition. And that was something that really, I used it to launch my coaching company. Hey, if you want to work with Rich Dad Hall of Fame, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, 2 things. So a lot of people are really like, we've done a lot of boot camps and education and seminars, and I'm really like for them. And obviously you are, if you got the word and you went through the program that's, helped you progress along your, success track. A lot of people are like really against it, or they're like, oh, why spend that money? You can spend that money and buy a house. Like what, people who say that, like, what's kind of your argument against it? Or, cause I'm like pro, seminar and boot camps. A lot of people are anti. They're like, oh, you can just get all your information free off of YouTube or Bigger Pockets, which is a great resource. But a lot of people are against that. Like, what would your kind of response to that be?
Well, you get what you pay for. I have a student right now. So my top program is called the Platinum Program. It's $60,000. You work with me one-on-one for 12 to 18 months. And like let me give an example of a Platinum grad. Sean LeCap, 27 years old, did 82 deals, 32 buy and holds, and 50 flips. Do you think that was from free information on the internet? If that's what you think, fuck you. Fuck you. You don't get 82 deals done by age 27 from Bigger Pockets. You're not going to just go down to the library and read a damn book and do 82 deals, okay? I got another guy right now, Mike Reimer, another Platinum grad. He's got 19 flips going right now. So he's got 19 deals in his pipeline. The most I see somebody doing without training is like 6 a year. So if you want to like scale up, if you want to do this for real, I got another Platinum student, Dan Nash. He's doing multi-million-dollar luxury flips. So he's doing like mansions, $1 million to $2 million a piece. Well, Dan and I worked for 18 months together. So, when you work with a coach, a performance coach, like someone who's legit, someone who's good, it costs money. But if you give me 60, I make you 300. Do you care? Do you care if it's 60? Even if you give me 60 and you make 120, do you care? You can go to Bigger Pockets and spend $0 and take your 60 grand, invest in a shitty duplex in Chicago or something. And next year you made like $8 grand cash flow or something. Well, dude, that's not $300,000.
No,
that's not $150,000. Well, think about that. You make 300 grand. You got the training. Now the next year, what are you paying? You're paying $0 now because you got the knowledge. You go make another 300. Well, that guy's made 600,000 in 2 years. He's ahead of the Bigger Pockets guy. So I'm all about training, man. I'm all about training. I'm all about coaching. I'm all about mentoring. I have 3 coaches myself right now. So I'm a buyer of coaching. I'm a seller of coaching. I only coach 12 guys a year. And that's its own thing. And I think it's super powerful to get into that. And it worked for me. Like, when I got into real estate, guys, I did 2 years of the free seminars and I did 1 deal a year. And I sucked. I did 1 deal a year. When I hired a coach, I did 12 deals the next year. Next year with a coach, 24 deals. Next year, 30 deals. So it went 1, 12, 24, 30. Well, what's the difference? It's a coach. So anybody who says, nobody who has a coach and does well says it's not worth it. It's only the losers who don't buy it who say it's not worth it. They're like, oh, it's not worth it. Well, you never bought it. How do you know?
Right. Yeah, and they wouldn't be successful either if they did the free shit or if they bought stuff. And
they'd be way more successful if they bought it. They would be way more because, like I got one guy right now, he just signed up with me. He's doing 12 deals a year and we're doing like 24 now. So he just doubled his business.
Yes.
Right. And what was stopping him? It was him stopping him. So he gets on the phone with me. I get him out of his own way. I say, no, you're not doing 24 deals the way you did 12. It looks different. You want to go to 30, you want to go to 50, it looks different. Because like where I'm at, where we're doing a contract every week, dude, I don't go in the field anymore, man. I can't. I don't do that. And you got to make the game looks different at every level. And if you want to go up a level, you got to work with someone who's on that next level. That's the key. You know, if you can go find those guys and do it for free and hang out with them, sure. But I don't want to hang out with some pikers. I don't want to hang out with some losers that won't invest in themselves. They're not those guys. I don't want to hang out with them.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the coaching, because you said it came out like just, you know, from the book that you wrote, right? How did you decide to do it? Was it just people coming up to you, okay, like, hey, coach me, hey, teach me to do what you do?
Yeah, so I had guys calling me from other cities. They'd call me from across Canada and they say, hey, can you coach me? Can you mentor me? And I'd be like, I was like, man, I don't want to. So I say no. At first I said no. And then I started coaching people for free. So I said, hey, come over to my house and I'll train you. And you know what happened, guys? Nobody showed up. They'd show up for one session. They wouldn't do their homework. I'd call them, wouldn't answer the phone. They'd dodge me. So then I started charging. And back in the day, I was like, okay, well, it's 10 grand. I'll charge you 10 grand and we'll get you a deal. And that program now has evolved over the years where, you know, I think the base is like $19,298 is the lowest price that my team will touch a person at. And then it goes up to like 61,000 or something. But that's like, we've created like a performance academy where, you know, people are either starting with their first deal or they're going full time and they're doing a deal a month. And it turned into a business because it turned out that there were so many people that wanted to be free, be an investor. They wanted to not have the job. They wanted to have like, you know, 10, 20, 30 grand a month of cash flow. And they wanted that. So being an entrepreneur, I started providing what people were asking for. And that's a big key, guys. Don't provide what you want to provide what they're asking for. Right. If you listen to them, they will tell you what they want to buy.
How many people have you coached so far since you started that side of your business?
I'd have to look at it, but it's a couple hundred. So hundreds of people. They're all on a spreadsheet somewhere. It's hundreds. I only do 12 a year. I do 12 guys a year myself. And then I got 3 other coaches who work with me and they handle everybody else.
What's the name of your coaching program?
You can go to stefanarnio.com. It's Stefan Aarnio coaching.
So I kind of want to go a little bit deeper into the coaching. Since you've coached so many people, what have you seen that is common across everybody that is stopping people from reaching that next level?
Well, it's the bullshit we tell ourselves. You know, people, I had a lady this morning, you know, and she's calling me. She says, hey, I want to make 100 grand. I say, great. 100 grand, you know, that program, that's a $31,000 program. We'll get you 3 deals in 6 months. The deals are worth 300,000 a piece. You're going to net 10%. That's about 100 grand. And the lady's like, yeah, that sounds great. And then today she's like, oh, you know, I don't think I can do it. Well, she can fund it. I know she can. She told me she has the money, but she's afraid. And she's telling me now, oh, well, I'll start wholesaling some deals and then I'll pay for it with my wholesaling proceedings. And I said, well, you've had my material for a month. You haven't done jack. Now you're telling me this bullshit about how you're going to go and do the thing that you want to hire me to do and then hire me after the fact. This is nonsense. You're just saying nonsense. So people tell themselves, oh, I'll go on Bigger Pockets and I'll read it. I'll do it myself. I think I'm smart enough. I don't need training. They'll tell themselves any number of things. And it usually comes down to, I'm scared and don't want to spend money. I'm scared and don't believe in myself. It's usually fears and weaknesses hold people back. And then when you have a coach, the coach comes in and says, all right, stop the bullshit. No, I want you to do 50 calls. Oh, I'm scared. Okay, well, here, let's talk it out. And then, you know, over time, you know, real estate comes down to calls and offers. You got to make your calls every week. You got to make your offers. People are afraid of calls and they're afraid of offers. They're afraid of rejection and they're afraid of rejection. And then human nature says, oh, I don't want to spend energy, right? Because we're always trying to save energy. So, you know, I got this one guy right now I'm coaching and he's trying to quit on me halfway. Well, he keeps making his wife make the calls. I said, buddy, you got to make the calls. You got to make the calls, motherfucker. You don't get your wife to do this. You're just scared. You're scared of rejection. You don't like hearing that. You got to do the calls yourself. So it's just like push-ups or sit-ups or personal training. I mean, dude, if you want a six-pack, you don't get your wife to do the sit-ups, for God's sake. You got to do the sit-ups.
Right. That's funny. So is it more like they're just searching for validation, or they're just kind of just somebody give them a little bit of a push to get past the bullshit that they were telling themselves.
They need a kick in the ass.
Dude, it's so many things, man. I mean, we all got it. I got my own bullshit that I tell myself. You guys got your own bullshit. And, that's why I have 3 coaches. I have 3 coaches, and I have a business coach, I have a life coach, and I have a health coach. And then I got to get a personal trainer too, I think, because my body's holding me back right now. So I think it's all about having those performance coaches and those people. Like, I talked to my coach last week, and he was like, man, you have totally changed your company. You transformed. In fact, I doubled one of my companies in the last year, which is insane. And I think I can get it another 5x this year and in the next 12 months. And he's like, man, you listened, you cut out all the bullshit, you stopped accepting bullshit from your people, and it's reflected in the numbers. And it took me 10 months, guys, 10 months with him to get to this point where he's like, man, I'm proud of you. And when I signed up with him, he's like, we need 18 months. So I'm going to go for at least another 8 months with this guy, maybe longer, because real change takes 12 to 18 months in somebody. And that's why Platinum program people work with me. I only work with 12 to 18 month minimum, because that's how long it takes to be a champion and do that 24 deals or 30 deals or really get up to that performance level takes 18 months.
So I guess kind of go a little bit deeper on that. What was it that was stopping you from where you were at before to when you hired him? Like, what did he get you over, like, for you to double your business essentially in 10 months?
Well, for me, I'm in the, my businesses are multi-million-dollar businesses now. So at my level of business, it's not about me anymore. When you're in the 6 figures, it's about you. It's about you doing what it is you need to do, your calls and your offers. At 7 figures, it's about systems and people and organization and having the proper meetings and the proper metrics and knowing your numbers and your QuickBooks and your accounting. So it's not about me anymore. Mm-hmm. It's about the team. And my team over the last year, I've had to fire people. I've had to let people go. I had 2 sales guys in my office, and last week, each of them, one of them made 19 calls, the other made 13 calls. And I sat them down and said, if you're making, in a day. And I said, if you make 19 calls in a day, don't come to work. If you make 13 calls, don't come to work. 50 call minimum in this office. Next day, they did 75 each. So, it's being a leader. It's setting that winning environment. It's not tolerating the bullshit. It's kicking out the drunks and the addicts on your team, the people with problems and excuses. I used to listen to excuses, and now I don't give a shit about your excuses. If you got excuses, get out. Like, I'm not listening to the bullshit anymore. And that's a major piece, guys. You guys are growing a team right now. You're going to have people that always have problems, always have stories. It's like tenants. Oh, my 3rd grandma died. Like, what do you have, 3 lesbian grandmas? You got 2 grandmas. You already had dead grandma twice. Why do we have 3rd dead grandma? So tell me why you got more excuses. And your job as a leader is to not tolerate those excuses. When people give you that, you just got to decide, is this guy in or out? I hired a guy in my company. He's a manager now, and this guy's no excuses at all. Put him in the job, does the job, everything's great. And, I fired one guy from my company. We doubled the company after firing him. Yeah. That's how much some of these guys hold you back, man. You got to get get the losers off your team. If a guy's a loser, out.
So it's just about setting the right culture, right? Like, culture of winning.
Yeah, when you got 3 people on your team, like 2 people's a pair. When you get 3, now a culture starts. And I'm not even in the office today. I'm at home today, and I got my report. I know the numbers. We had a great day yesterday. Great day for sales. And my team is working right now because all the loafers and the losers and the parasites, they're all gone. We've got people in there who show up to work and do their job every day. And I've got all the systems, I got the tracking to know that they're doing their jobs.
So what are some tips that you would say for creating the right culture for your business?
Well, I think a lot of it's about expectations. You have to set the expectation. Like I told my guys, I said, guys, 50 calls minimum a day. If you're not doing 50 calls, don't come to work, right? Don't be here. One thing that I did, and this is interesting, you know, with salespeople, we put them on draw salaries so they would get a little bit of money and not be worried about money. Because when guys are worried about money, they stop working. So, you know, like little systems like that. I think one thing you want to do with your culture is try to create quality jobs. How can you make this a quality job? We have a book club every month. My team has to do a book report. Everyone presents on the books. We all read the same book. Every you know, I'm always bringing them. We had ice cream cake the other day. You know, that was fun. We have little team nights. We take everyone out for dinner. We listen to everybody. We make it a good place to work. And that's something as an employer is how do you make a good job for somebody? And how do you be the best deal for them? And how do you make it so that they're not going to go shopping for another job because this is a pretty great place?
Like you got to treat them like as good, if not better than you would treat a client, essentially.
Yeah, well, they are your clients. Your investors are clients, your employees are clients, and then your customers are clients. And the employees, like for example, everybody on my team is making more than the market, like what they'd be worth in the market. Everybody's paid more at my office than they would in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit more. And, you know, like little things like that. You know, I had this one lady, she was in my office last week. And she's like, oh, my assistant sucks. I said, well, what are you paying them? Minimum wage. Okay. Well, go get a girl for $2 more than minimum wage and expect way more. And, you know, guys, it's amazing. You pay someone $2 more than minimum wage an hour and you can expect way more out of them. That's
almost $100 extra a week that they would get.
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, you can look at it that way. But for you, you know, isn't it worth it to pay $2 more and you can get someone who's a model, good looking, speaks great English, probably has a degree, and they're like, oh, damn, I'm making $2 more. I can't leave.
Right.
Versus minimum wage where they're like, no English, not good looking, looking for a new job. Well, guys, like seriously, good looking people cost the same as ugly people. You might as well get some good looking ones.
Yeah.
Why not? Right.
Let's switch gears here a little bit and talk about your podcast, because you just came out with it. What is it? Few weeks ago?
Oh, dude. Yeah. Only a few weeks ago. And we've been firing like crazy. We've been doing 2 shows a week we released 8 or 10 right out of the gates. And then we've been doing, I think, 2 shows a week. So I think we've been out maybe for a month now. RespectTheGrindPodcast.com.
What was the reason behind starting the podcast for you?
Well, I wanted to, it's kind of an experiment. I wanted to interview and connect with some people who are higher levels. So I got some guys on my podcast who are flipping 400, 500 homes a year. So that's pretty cool. You know, I get to reach out to authors, athletes, people I want to talk to, and they want to talk to me because I have a podcast. With that being said, it's a value add for my customers. We live in a world now where the customer wants free everything. So your customers, your investors, your clients, whoever you're selling to, they want free content. So I'm really going heavy into YouTube this year. I'm going heavy in the podcast this year because they're infinitely scalable and they're free to the customer. And the customer demands free. They want free. If they can't have free, they're not in.
They're not going to pay.
Well, we live in a world now where you have to give, then someone buys.
What was it, that jab hook? Give enough value for content, then they buy?
Yeah, you know, and that's a perfect example. Gary Vee, he's free, $200 million. Right? That's his funnel. It's free, corporate social media, $200 million company. Good for him. Right? Grant Cardone, free, $100 million of sales.
Yeah. What have you learned since starting the podcast? What has happened differently than you thought it might have happened?
I find it's easier to book people than I thought. The booking is easy.
Yeah, man, right? It is.
Everybody wants to talk to you, man. Booking is easy. You know what? It costs more than I thought. I have a team that does it for me. It costs more money than I thought. I think it's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I talk to customers now and they go, oh man, I love the podcast. Dude, I love it. I listen to all the episodes, or I listen to this, or I listen to that. And so the interesting thing about customers now is they go from free podcast to free YouTube. They might get a book. They might check you out on Facebook. They might check you out on Instagram. Then they buy. And a lot of people are watching you. You know, like you guys, people are watching you. And they're in the shadows and you don't know they're watching you. And maybe they're not even on your list, but they're listening to the podcast. And then one day they come out of the shadows and they buy something or they invest.
Yeah.
And that's just the magic of the internet. You know?
I get that. It's like, a year goes by, you haven't seen somebody, and then you bump into them somewhere, and then they're like, oh yeah, I saw you on Facebook, or you're doing this or that. And you're like, I didn't even know you still existed. And they're like, they're in the shadows, like watching everything. You're like, oh wow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have weirdos. I mean, I say weirdos with love, reaching out to me every day and like, man, I've got all your books. I've listened to your podcast. I've watched 700 of your YouTube videos. Dude, I love you. Like, and it's cool. It's cool. That's because awesome. We have the leverage now to spend time with people without us spending time with them.
Yeah. And then people meet you for the first time too. And then they feel like they know you. And then it's kind of cool. You're kind of putting your credibility out first, and you don't have to, it's a lot easier nowadays to do that.
Yeah.
But I had a question with, so your podcast is Respect the Grind, and I've seen you have like wristbands that say that, and that's kind of like your mantra. Can you explain like what that means to you, or like what's, kind of translate that for our audience?
Yeah. So respecting the grind. I mean, it's like you guys saying whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes. Respect the grind to me is it takes 10 years and 10,000 hours to be a master, and you have to respect the grind, the friction. None of this is going to be easy. None of it's fast. And grinding is repetitive actions. So whether it's calling people on the phone, that's repetitive. Writing offers is repetitive. I just interviewed a bodybuilder on my show right before you guys. That guy has probably done a bicep curl 1,000,000 times, right? So grinding is repeating the steps over and over and over again. And grinding, to me, the world never stops grinding. It's always grinding, grinding, grinding. And when you stop grinding, I think you die. Like, life is over. You're dead. Like, if you retire, I think it's over. I think you can have financial freedom and you can have choices in life. But really, I think life is the grind. And I got these two ideas. One is respecting the grind, and the other one's do less. And doing less is pulling back and looking at the picture and getting the leverage. But I think that there is nobody on this earth who's been successful without respecting the grind and respecting that process, because it does take a lot more than you think to win at anything. And I've got Olympic gold medalists on my show. I've got real estate investors. I got entrepreneurs. I got authors. I got athletes. I got everybody on my show. And it's interesting because if you listen to it, it's the same messages over and over again. Repetitive actions, discipline, freedom through discipline, respecting the grind over and over again. And that's how champions are made.
Where can people find your podcast?
It's
respectthegrindpodcast.com.
Matt, you want to go into the questions?
Yeah. So we got some questions for you. Brings up some good conversations. Let me pull them up really quick. If you had the chance to start over, what would you do differently?
Dude, that's, I wrote myself a letter. My book coach said, hey, write yourself a letter letter to your younger self. And I wrote this letter. I put it on my blog, stephanaarnio.com/blog, and it's called Break the World. And my two regrets in life, guys, are not starting soon enough and not doing it. So if I could do it again, I would drop out of school at age 16 and start selling vacuums for a living. I'd skip university altogether. I'd say screw university. And the other thing is, I wish I started properties at age 16. I also wish I held more properties. If I started at 16 and held more, dude, I'd be way richer today. But hindsight is always 20/20, right? I spent $300,000 on my education. I could have spent $300,000 on properties. I think the education is much better, but if I'd started at 16 instead of 22, and if I'd sold vacuums instead of going to university, I'd be a way richer man, probably way smarter, way healthier, way happier.
What habits helped make you successful?
Well, when I was 3 years old, my mother put me in piano and we had to practice every day. And I've always had this everyday mentality. So whether it's real estate or whether it's sales or writing books, I've always had this everyday mentality, and that's respecting the grind. So I think that anything you want to be great at, you got to do every day. And I've got that everyday mentality, like every day relentlessly going after that thing. You got to do it every day.
Do you have a favorite failure? Is there one that sets you up for future success?
Oh man, dude, I've failed on so many things. Fuck, I failed on so many things. I don't even know. I've been on the edge of bankruptcy several times. That's a real wake-up call, when you're on the edge and you got 45 days until it's all over. That's a real wake-up call. Every time you get on the edge with anything, whether it's your business or your health or whatever it is you're doing, that's usually a wake-up call and pushes you to the next level. Do I have a favorite one? I write about one in my book, Self Made, on my second deal. I became religious. That's how screwed I was. I was 45 days away from bankruptcy. And it's amazing what happens when you're on the edge. Your brain starts to work and you pull it together. And I was 90 days away from bankruptcy. In 45 days, I fixed the deal. Everything was good and actually got myself out of the rat race. So, you look at that. It's like Keith Cunningham. I don't know if you guys know him. He was lecturing a group of MBA business school students. And he said to them, how many of you guys want to be worth $10 million in 5 years? They all raised their hands. And he said, how many of you are willing to be bankrupt in the next 5 years? No one raised their hands. He said, that's the problem with you people. Everybody wants to die, but no one wants to go to heaven. And, being on the edge a couple times really wakes you up and makes you appreciate and realize, how important this stuff is. And also it makes you a little bit more tough because you realize you go through the mind of going bankrupt and you can get it back faster because now you have the knowledge.
What is unique about your business?
Which one? Which business, man?
Whichever one you like the best.
Stefan Aarnio.
Stefan Aarnio, the brand. Well, what's unique about my business, I'm always making new stuff. I got into business so I can make things. I was making houses. I was making art. I'm making books and programs. I got software coming out. I'm making things, dude. That's what's unique about me. I'm always making stuff, always making something different. And I always try to put some spice on it, put some edge on it, make it a little bit different. So, I think that I haven't met another Stefan Aarnio. So I think that that's just simply because of, I just love making stuff and I got such a velocity of making things, and all you need is one or two hits and you're a champion forever.
What's the worst piece of advice that you ever got?
I think worst piece of advice is go to school, get a job. Just dumbass, stupid advice. There's no redemption in that. If you want to get a government job, you go to university, get your government degree for your government job. But it is such a false dream, guys. It gets more and more false every day. I think that young people need to learn to sell. That's probably another worst piece of advice, is don't go into selling. My parents said, no selling. You're not allowed to sell. Selling is the most important thing people can learn to do. And also another thing is my mother kept me out of the trades. No woodworking, no painting, no shops. I wish I got into that. And I think a trade is a great thing. I think totally undervalued. Trades are undervalued. And I think selling is undervalued. University's overvalued.
What is your best hiring tip or secret?
I make people do 3 or 4 book reports of my books before we hire them. So,
That's awesome.
some people get those book reports done in a day and they're sharp. And then other people take 6 months and they're not that sharp. And if it takes them 6 months to give you some shitty book reports that you're not even going to read, they're not that bright. So give them some hard stuff to do. The more difficult you make it to get a job, the better guys you get.
What is one thing that you find to be true that most people would disagree with?
Oh man, I got it all in my book, Hard Times Create Strong Men, 700 pages of what I think is true that other people are going to find offensive. I think one thing that is really important, guys, right now is that the world is obsessed with weakness, and the world is catering to weakness, and we keep lowering the bar on everything to make it inclusive to everybody. And I don't think that helps anyone in this world. I think that we got to be honest with ourselves. If you're fat, just say you're fat. We got to fix that. Okay. If you're sick, say you're sick. If you're broke, say you're broke. Like, don't say you're financially challenged. Be like, I'm broke. I got to fix that. When you get honest with yourself and when you have some standards, that's when you can do things. You can change. It's like my buddy Donald Trump calls Haiti a shithole, and everybody's mad about that. But I've been to Haiti, dude. I built a house in Haiti. It is a shithole. And if you try to pretend that it's a nice place, you can't fix Haiti. You can't help somebody if you're telling them that they're beautiful when they're a mess. So I think that honesty and calling things what they are is something that we're missing from the world. And everybody gets pissed off about it because we want it to be nice, but the world isn't nice.
Self-awareness.
Yeah, bro. Self-awareness. Call it what it is. If you're losing money on deals, figure it out. You're losing money. Don't tell yourself you're a good investor if you're losing money. Fix that, man.
Or start blaming the market or your contractors. Or
I always say, dude, you can never blame the customer. You can never blame the market. Don't accept that. Don't accept those little blame things. I say, like, even if it is the customer, don't blame the customer. What can you do better?
Why do you do what you do? How do you stay motivated?
Well, I'm obsessed. So that's how I stay motivated. I've been obsessed my whole life. I get obsessed with things. So, I always wanted to make things. There was no place in the world where someone would hire me to make stuff. So I'm motivated to make stuff. I'm obsessed with what I do. And I think that everybody who's really great at something is obsessed. And it's almost like it's like an OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. I think that people who are really great, they're obsessed, man. And it's like Grant Cardone says, be obsessed or be average. And he was obsessed with drugs and women and booze because his obsession was turned in the wrong direction. If you got your obsession turned in the right direction, you can do great things with your life.
I like that.
And then last one, what's one piece of advice that you'd give to someone just starting out?
Oh, man, you got to get educated. I think at the beginning, all your money's got to go into education, training, education. Don't worry about money for properties. Train, educate. Don't be afraid for paying for great training. It all comes back to you in bigger and faster and better ways. You got to focus on your intellectual capital at the beginning and get really smart. A lot of people, they just want to come in here and be a dumbass, and they think people are going to give them millions of dollars for being a dumbass. You can't be a dumbass. You have to invest in yourself and get really, really smart with this. And then people will open their wallets and give you millions of dollars to invest, but because they see that you invest in yourself first.
Also, I got another one with since you are with Rich Dad, and then I like that story of how you started off. You and your friends were playing cash flow, and you decided all to invest together, because we actually do a monthly cash flow club, probably for like a year and a half now. We just played like 2 days ago. For people that aren't familiar with that, you can kind of explain it and then tell them like why, what did you get out of it, and like, how does that help you, especially just starting off, right?
Well, cash flow is a great little game to play. I'll say this: don't get obsessed with it. Cash flow is good, you can learn. You can learn about properties. You can learn about stocks and investing, and you can get a really good mentality out of that. Don't get obsessed with it though, because some people they're champions of playing cash flow but do nothing in their real life. So, learn the game, but then learn to apply it in real life. If you guys are running a cash flow club, I think it's a brilliant idea. Super smart. Do it. Spend time at it. Make it fun. Have some food or some dinner or whatever. Make it worth your time. And the people you meet there could be your next partners. The people you meet there could be your investors. It's a great way to get going in this business. I started playing cash flow myself.
It's a great mindset shift for sure. Awesome, man. That was great. Now that we're finishing off here, where can people find your stuff?
So you can go to my website, stefanaarnio.com, STEFANAARNIO.com. I got my books online. You can go find my book, moneypeopledeal.com. Got books out, website, connect with me on social media. My name, I'm the only Stefan Aarnio. I got the first 100 pages of Google for Stefan Aarnio. So you can find me in any number of ways, whatever your channel is, YouTube, Instagram, I'm on all of it.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Really appreciate you giving us your time.
Thanks, gents.
All right, till next time, guys. And that's it for another episode of the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. One last thing before you head off, though. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us your thoughts on iTunes. It would really mean a lot and help us reach more people. You can also find us on Facebook at Profits Over Wages Podcast, as well as on Instagram and YouTube. Until next time.